Tom Carlson. Welcome to the channel. This is my annual ETF pre-swap meet and convention video. This is going to be a slightly unusual year. I don't intend or have a lot of room to bring a lot of things to directly sell in the swap meet, but I'm going to make this video anyway so you know I'm not dead. And if anybody wants something bad enough to convince me to try to squeeze it in somewhere, maybe I can. Primarily what I'm hauling this year are these two working 50s RCA roundies for the ETF auction. The bottom one is a CTC7 Southbridge with UHF, and the top one is a CTC9 Boswell metal cabinet. The 9 has been cosmetically restored. Both have been electronically serviced enough to function. Both could use minor improvements here and there. The 7 especially could use a tuner clean. Why did I do this one up the way I did, all perfect on the cabinet and not completely 100% on the electronics? Well, I have a third CTC7 over there, which I should pan over to. Sanford. This CTC7 Sanford, you can't see it terribly well, but the photo finish is shot on it on a number of fronts. I bought this first, just before the fall ETF swap meet last year. And after the swap meet, a barn sale in northern Illinois came up, and these two sets were in it. So I bought them both. What I was going to do, because I don't like the idea of learning how to do large panels of veneer on a set that's important to me, which the Sanford would be important to me if I were to re-veneer it and redo it, I had this clever idea. You know, I could probably swap masks between one of my two 7s and that metal Boswell, switch a 7 chassis into it, and it would be identical to a CTC7 Meredith. And that plan almost worked, except for the fact that the screen bezel on the table model 7 and on the 9, which I believe are both the same size, are significantly larger than the bezels on the console sets, which my two 7s that I have right now are console sets. So that swap was not possible. I only figured this out less than a week ago when I was going to assemble a 7 into the Boswell cabinet and realized that, oops, the masks don't fit. Uh-oh. So, yeah. But those two sets, the 9 I always planned on selling if I couldn't fit a 7 into it, which I can't, at least not with the 7 parts I've got. And the Southbridge I always intended on selling from the time I got it. I didn't even realize it was in the barn sale until I showed up and got a look at it from another angle that actually showed the screen. There's a very nice metal table model with stand 7 that someone else has put into the ETF auction that I'm now highly interested in. I'm hanging on to the Sanford over here until after the spring ETF, just in case I don't win the metal 7 that someone else put into the ETF, but I'm probably going to be gunning for that one. And I should have lots of funds to do so for two reasons. One, I was able to get a new job. The other reason why I'm going to have lots and lots of money, some of you might understand what these are just from seeing the amplifier chassis, but let's show this off. This is a Magnavox Concert Grand. I have 2 of these, and I'm going to be selling this one to a friend of mine for a 4-figure sum. So I'm going to have a lot of money to play with at the convention. So basically, fall, someone advertised this one, and I picked it up because I've always wanted a Concert Grand. If you'll those of you who remember the Zenith Frankenchancellor video will know I built the Frankenchancellor because I couldn't afford a concert grand, and I wanted something that was powerful audio with a remote-controlled system. So that is exactly what I built with the Chancellor. But this one appeared cheap enough that I picked it up. And, well, let's just say both of these are Mouse House editions. The very beautiful Danish Modern unit is Mild Mouse House edition, and the early American one is Mega Mouse House edition. Between the two, I was able to make the Danish, which has the better cabinet. I was able to make it work really good and be really perfect and really complete. The early American was missing a lot of remote control parts to the point where it just ain't going to be a remote set ever again, is basically how it goes. I've done a whole video on these two. I'm not going to do any more spoilers, but it was epic, the nonsense I had to go through to get that thing to live, and it disenchanted me enough that, especially after getting a job, I felt the urge to put the funds into the better unit. So now I have a Danish Modern Concert Grand. Pretty soon I gotta get that thing installed in my upstairs display room. But between those two, that behemoth, and another Magnavox, specifically this one, that I upgraded to be stereophonic some years ago. Between all of that and this, both the Magnavoxes are going to the same guy. I'm not going to have a ton of room in the car for swap meet items, and I also don't have a ton of items that I would sell at the swap meet, but I will enumerate them shortly. First, I'll give you a quick look at this thing. This was a local thrift shop find. When I found it, it had this 60s era VM changer retrofitted into it that was a stereo changer. And somewhere along the lines, I came across the guts of another one at a radio swap meet, and I had myself this cool idea that I would turn this unit into stereo. I bolted in an extra amp chassis. I have a spare speaker that's just the board from another Magnavox of this era. Basically, I would take the band switch out of the other tuner, add the section for the audio switching to this one, take there's like 2 or 3 6J5s in this thing that are the audio stage tubes, replace them with 6SN7s. A 6SN7 is basically 2 6J5s in a bottle, to basically double the audio triode count so that I could add a second audio preamp stage. And the rest more or less takes care of itself. I have a FM multiplex adapter that I've been meaning to add to the FM tuner that I'm going to shortly. And I need to clean the band switch a little bit. It's being squirrely on AM and shortwave and not always wanting to put audio through. I'm going to see if I can address that quick and get this loaded. The record changer in the bottom, and this is actually a spare intended for the Concert Grand, because the changer that went into that has a bad idler wheel and it'll need a pickup cartridge in it. And that changer, which is mono, has a good cartridge and a good idler wheel if I remember correctly. I think I fixed that changer up in fall, contemplating putting it into this thing, and in the end wound up putting the VM changer that was in this back into this. For a number of years, this thing had a Claro Conquest in it that I robbed to stick into a Stromberg Carlson stereo console that I dearly love. And I also dearly love those Claro Conquest changers to the point where they're feeler changers that use the arm to determine record size by feeling the edge of the record, and they'll play odd-sized records perfectly. This changer here predates that slightly. So I kind of wanted to keep that changer because I really liked it, so I ended up pulling it out of this console back when I tried to sell it in fall, and it was not very successful, but a buddy of mine will take it off my hands. And I like this thing a lot, and it's a really cool creation, but at the same time, I'm low on space, and this isn't high on my priorities of keeping. Maybe someday I'll regret selling it, and if my buddy's still around, I'll offer him a sum of money to get it back and see if he bites. But for now, I'm better off selling it, and I know it. And this is what the guts for the Danish Modern Concert Grand look like. They're basically done at this point. The OCD part of me wants to scrub off tolerance resistors in the tuner chassis just because I can, but really it's ready to go back together. So what am I thinking about selling this year? In the extremely hard to get to category, there is this 7-inch, I think it's a Philco 50T501 or something. Yeah, about 4 years ago I recapped that thing, ran it for a little while, and set it up there, and it hasn't moved since. It's a good working set, cabinet's real nice. Because I have to move basically multiple consoles and climb over stuff to get to it, and risk life and limb, I'm gonna say that I want $300 for that. Can I even get to it? Well, I can't readily get to it, but I have a wood cabinet Hallicrafters, the same one I offered at the fall swap meet. I'm not dying to sell it, but I think $250 would convince me to part ways with it. The 7JP4 in it's good. It's fully recapped. I'm not dying to sell it, but if someone wants it bad enough, I'm willing to sell it. What else? I've got this 1972 19-inch Philco hotel set. It's a hybrid, 75 ohm antenna input, no built-in antennas because it's a hotel set, remnants of the sticker on top that shows it was a hotel set. I had this thing working beautifully up until I did the Decision 2024 video on the CTC9 Corinthian. And I was using this over here because it's right next to my video and video games rack. I was using this to basically do monitoring and local control, because where the Corinthian was set up, I wouldn't be able to see its screen while adjusting channels and programming sources and whatnot. And I left this on the whole time, and it eventually lost chroma. And then the video drivers for red and green, or not red and green, the video drivers for blue and green dropped out by the end of the program, so I need to address that. I like this set a lot, so I'm going to also price this at $200 as is. I like a lot of my stuff, and I want to keep a lot of my stuff, and I'm running out of room, which is a problem. If someone's really dying to have a 19-inch Japanese-made Sears with a built-in AM/FM radio, this thing's a vacuum tube TV with a transistor radio built into it. I'm not sure if I can even get the controls to the radio, which are down near the bottom. If anyone wants this really bad, that one would also be $200. It's been sitting under here for probably close to a decade now, I'd like to say. I may have at some point in the middle of that drug it out and dim bulbed it up. It's working set. I remember the radio controls being a little bit dirty. I remember when I got it, I changed a handful of capacitors in it to make it function properly. I didn't give it a full recap, but I did enough to get it working. I kind of like this enough that I'm not itching to sell it, but if someone really wants it bad, I'll let it go. This here is a Sony, I believe, SL7200. I might have the first two digits wrong, but it's basically the first standalone Betamax deck that Sony sold. Now, this one doesn't work. I've been meaning to get to working on it. I gave it a quick diagnosis run Go back in fall, I gave this thing a quick diagnostic run. Determined that it was just involved enough that I didn't want to deal with it with all the other stuff I had on my plate, as I was hoping it would be a quick fix, and it wasn't. Yeah, I would like $100 for this. Otherwise, I'm going to keep it and fix it. But, yeah, that's available. Oh, swap meet item I forgot about. This top monitor right here is an RCA, I believe, TM9N. It is a broadcast monitor. It might have been off of a camera, because part of the cabinet seems like it might not necessarily be RCA built. I'll put it that way. It looks pretty nice, though. This one has an issue where the original yoke was bad, and I subbed a different yoke that isn't quite a perfect match, and it's got some linearity and ringing issues that I haven't had time to deal with. It's all recapped and it works fine other than that. And it'll take composite video only, and has no audio system in it because it's a broadcast monitor and they used separate systems for audio back then. I don't know what I was asking for it before, but if someone really wants it, I'd let it go for like $75. It's cool and all, but I have other broadcast monitors. I have other monitors that make it not that make that little guy not necessary for me to keep. Cute as a bug's ear, though. Now for the stuff I could really use portion of the show. Stuff I'm looking for at the swap meet. So, I'm obviously trying to own every RCA Roundy color chassis generation that existed. And at this point, I'm looking for a nicer 7 so that I don't have to re-veneer the Sanford, obviously. I also don't have a 12 or a 15. Small console or preferably table model 12 and 15s I'm definitely looking for. I finally got a 20 again after a long time. I could really use one of these knobs for this GE810. The 803 also uses this knob. This is the large shaft version of this. There are large and small shaft versions of this knob. That's a small shaft. Kind of see that there's a bit of a difference there. Yeah, I'm looking for the large shaft version to complete my 810. It's a pretty nice 810, and I like it a lot, so I'd like to keep it and get that put back to how it should be. If someone has one of these halo lights with the bezel that extends from the cabinet, where the bezel isn't cracked horrendously, or should I say not cracked at all, I'd probably give about $200 for this exact bezel, or a set in any condition with an uncracked bezel that I could harvest one from. I really badly would like a band switch or function selector knob for my Andrea TV12. I got this one last year at the ETF auction, got it fully recapped and working beautifully, and it's always been missing that knob. The knobs, if the camera would focus, the knobs are all labeled with the function that they do. Not very well on this example, but they are all labeled. I'd really love to have one with the band switch, function switch labeling on it that shows the different bands in TV mode and phono mode. But I would settle for any knob this size, even if it says a different function like brightness or contrast or whatever. I would settle for any knob and hand paint the stinking letters on it just to have the correct wood knob. If any of you have one of those in your junk boxes, please check, and I'll give you decent money for it. I'd really like to make this thing complete. This is a really nice specimen after I cleaned it up and did some, let's say, some special things to rejuvenate the original finish. I found a technique that I consider to be significantly better than Howard's. Some of what I did on this was a slight experimentation, I learned a couple things on this, but I'm getting to the point where I can really perk up an original finish that would otherwise be considered bad enough to need refinish and make it look like new again. Lastly, I could really use an RCA CT100 tuner. It used to be that I had free spares, but I was dumb enough to sell 2 of them, I believe. This is the original one to this unit. I've been having an issue on this thing where basically the fine-tuning doesn't want to consistently operate. You can set it so that it's good on a channel, turn the set off, come back in a certain amount of time, and you'll have absolutely no reception of anything, and you'll have to play around with the fine-tuning to get it back. And the fine-tuning works strangely, too. Like, you can rotate it a certain distance to try to get optimal, and all of a sudden, you'll lose signal, and you won't get the signal back by rotating the fine-tuning back to where you were getting signal. You'll have to rotate it, like, all the way to its stop, hard, and then turn it back to where you were getting signal, and hope that it doesn't drop out at the optimum point, which is extremely frustrating. Also, sometimes the set would just lose fine-tuning randomly, instantaneously, like an intermittent, in the middle of watching programming, which is highly unpleasant. I have done a lot on this. I have cleaned every contact imaginable as thoroughly as possible. I've changed resistors. I've resoldered every joint around the oscillator that I could think of, because the fine-tuning is obviously a skew of the oscillator on these. I don't know what the heck's up, and the weirdest thing is it's primarily on channel 7, which is my main channel. It's not so bad on some of the other channels. I've replaced the strip in the tuner with one from one of my other tuners. I actually tried a couple of different strips because there's, I think, a VHF low set and a VHF high set. And I retuned a couple of different VHF high strips that were for the right channel range to that, and that didn't fix it. I'm at my wit's end. The one spare tuner I have is missing the fine-tuning mechanism, which I believe is welded on these. Actually, it's riveted. And I'm afraid to dismantle this one off of here, that it might make the issue worse. I almost bolted this one up and used it instead, but I'm worried that the issue is going to get worse if I do that, or that the alignment's going to be so skewed that I'm going to have to go back to that one anyway. I'm not really sure what to do about this pickle, but it'd be nice if I had another tuner that was a little bit more complete. I'd also be interested in buying one of those. So that's basically where I'm at on the swap meet stuff. I'm not sure how much of the stuff I've offered that isn't either in the auction or spoken for already will actually be able to fit with how much stuff I've got to bring to the auction. But it's available if you really want it. As far as the state of the channel goes going forward, I'm obviously not going to have tons and tons of time to do editing of videos. Honestly, editing takes me per video over a week of free time a lot of times, and I just don't have that with all the hobbies I have going to effectively put out content on a regular basis. However, I do have 1 or 2 videos that are nearly edited that I probably will try to release within the year, and I'll probably still be putting out stuff from time to time. I filmed a lot of amazing restorations and a lot of really cool pieces of equipment that I really want to share with you guys, but I have to know the limits of what I can do in terms of time and ability, just so that my life can be pleasant, and so that the things I'm trying to do are things that are possible and not things that are impossible. But the channel's not dead, it's just resting. At some point in time, I'll either have a big burst of free time and start producing videos regular again, or here and there when I feel like it, I'll take some of the more interesting stuff and get it edited together and put out the occasional really long restoration special. Anyhow, thanks for watching. I hope to see you all at the ETF. For those of you who can't make it, Bob Anderson usually does a pretty decent coverage of that event on his channel. That's worth taking a peek at if you're curious about what the early television museum's spring convention's like. If you like the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing if you want to not miss out on any future videos that I put out. Thanks for watching.